Hooray! What's up, guys? How's it going? How we doing? What's up, D2? What's up, Far Horizon? Sorry, I don't have alerts or overlays on the starting screen, because usually there's not anybody in here on the starting screen. But you guys are here. How's it going? Thanks for the follow, Far Horizon. Over on the YouTube side, Maria Maya, how's it going? We're very low key. We're very low energy today. It's Monday really took it out of me. If you weren't here on Monday, we did a 5-hour feedback stream, and then I had an interview on a podcast that turned into like a 3-hour conversation, which was awesome. It was a great time with Trey and the guys over at Lost State Studios on YouTube. You can look them up. There are links in my Discord if you want to go. If you want to go check out what we talked about. There you go, D2. There's the toast dance. Yeah, I should probably have those over the starting screen, just, cuz. But they were not integrated into that scene in OBS. But how we doing? How's it going? Looks like Far Horizon wants some feedback. Yeah, so today's gonna be a very low-key, mellow stream, probably pretty short stream. Because I talked for 8 straight hours on Monday, and I kind of wrecked my voice, and it's still not back 100%. I could barely talk yesterday. It was quite physically painful to talk because I was just screaming about music for 8 straight hours, as we do. But yeah, we can definitely we'll have 3 or 5 or something feedback slots here at the top of stream. What's up, Devour? I'm so good. How are you?
Deploying flashbang.
Oh goodness, Cake's coming in with a bang. For sure, Far Horizon.
Devour _R1 wants feedback on their song.
Excellent. Yes. So we have a new feedback portal, Devour. That should be pretty self-explanatory, but go fill it out there. Just to let you know, Far, we do have kind of a limited number of slots today. I'll probably do, 3 or 4 at the top here, and then we're going to keep working on this track for Order 1, sci-fi horror VR game that we are working on. We started a track last week called Crew Quarters. We're about halfway through on it. We've got the combat vertical done. We've got the ambiance vertical done, and so we need the sneak and escape situations for that one. So that is going to be our goal for the day. My exams are over now. I'm fully on production. That is fantastic. Congratulations. I'm glad your exams are over. That's very good. Exams are annoying. That's why I left school and never went back to school. But that's very cool. Were you in school for audio or just like general school, general purpose school? But yeah, so that is the plan for today. We'll do a couple of feedbacks here. General, gotcha. Very good. We'll do a couple of feedbacks, and then we will jump into working on Order 1, which is going to be a ton of fun. But we have just so much work. Even though I took yesterday off of streaming, it was actually a really productive day of production. I got 3 pieces done. We did a piece for Saint AT, who is a community member and huge supporter of the channel. Saint gifted 30 subs a couple of weeks ago, like an absolute madman. And I was like, hey, you're going to drop that many gifteds. You get a track. So I produced a track for him, which is going to go on their next record, I believe. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see. First time I've ever tried to do something sort of like trap, rap, R&B-ish. I've certainly mixed a lot of records in that vein, but I had never actually sat down and been like, I'm going to make a trap beat. So we tried our best, and Saint, I think, really liked it. At least that's what he told me. So that was pretty cool. We did finish another piece for Salvage, which we had started last week, and then I also did a piece for this new IVN project that we have been commissioned for, which was kind of like an 80s synthwave-ish kind of a vibe, which was very fun. So I got a ton done yesterday, but I was alone in my dark studio, just not talking, which was really nice because it was legitimately pretty painful to even open my mouth and make sound. So I'm drinking jasmine tea. Blanken, how's it going, friend? Good to see you. So yeah, we're mellow. We're in the robe. It's a little chilly. We're still thawing out from this massive snowstorm that hit the city over the weekend. But yeah, no, things are good. We're just staying cozy. Yeah, so if anybody wants feedback, we've got a couple of slots open. Not too terribly many, but go ahead and chuck your stuff in there. !feedback will get you a link to feedback.anathanscott.com, our wonderful new feedback portal produced by scripted, custom coded for us by the one and only Supertonic, our wonderful moderator. Awesome. We've got Devour in there, having with pole position, as it were. So yeah, we're gonna do, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, something like that. Depends on how many people are jumping in. But we'll do a couple of feedbacks, and then, like I said, we will get into working on Order 1. I suppose, since Devour's in there, I'm sure a couple other people jump in there as well. Let's hop over to our handy dandy feedback view. Feedback is the response. Is sending something for feedback considered feed in? I guess it would be feed front, because the opposite of back is front. I don't know. That's a good question, though. Horror, spooky, sci-fi VR game sounds so cool. Yes, it is extremely cool. We will talk about that in just a bit. But Devour, you are up first with some trackage here. Working in Ableton, feedback on more or less everything. And the comment on the track is, "How's your day, sir?" My day's great. We're tired. That is about what's going on. But let's go ahead and check out the track here.
Unsure of the feeling, wide awake, still sleeping, consciousness is fleeting.
Where did you source these vocals from?
Walking on a tightrope, balancing what I know, caught between a dream world and I sigh, fantasies of fiction within. Wild, are we high, or is it
They are AI generated.
lucid desire? Lucid desire.
Just so you know, I know your track isn't, but just so you know, there's I would say 80%, 80 to 85% sure those are AI generated vocals. Ian, how's it going?
Caught between a dream world and I sigh, fantasies of fiction within. Wild, are we high, or is it lucid desire?
Well, I wouldn't bet my career on it. They sound sus. They sound very sus. They're either AI generated or they're really tuned and processed to hell. I don't know. I'm suspicious of them. Other than that, though, we'll ignore those for now. It's fine. Suno suspicion emote. 100%. We should absolutely have that.
Wide awake,
Well, it's
still
honestly, it's kind of tricky because it's like I never want to like call people out on it in like a mean way because it is what it is. I more just don't obviously don't want to like promote anything like that here, and we don't like it, but it's not like I'm gonna call you a bunch of names and ban you. I get, if somebody came in and was like, gave us like a fully Suno track and was like, no, it's real, like that would be a huge issue. That's also never happened in a year of doing feedback and literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks submitted. Oh, new follow. Arthur, how's it going? You are not too late this time. We've got a couple of slots open. We're just doing a couple of quick feedbacks at the beginning. They're from very insane producers. They may be insanely processed, but can be from process. Yeah. And it might not be.
Arthurils 99 wants feedback on their song.
Alien Rave, how's it going, buddy?
Balancing what I know, caught between a dream world.
If they are, they're very good. It doesn't. I don't think it's Suno. It's a different model. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Your track itself is great.
And I sigh, lucid desire.
No, I hear the vocoder in there. It's not that. It's the way that it comes across to me is it's in the vibrato, particularly the vibrato on how notes get held. There's like an unreal perfection to the breath support. And then the vibrato always feels really synthetic, and they always when it's a real person singing, there's all this like organic nonlinearity to it. Even if the person's an incredible, you can do that in Melodyne, but it's the frequency of the vibrato is like an exact kind of millisecond value that repeats perfectly. If you were to go in and automate a pitch, like a pitch wheel, and just like perfectly do like 100 milliseconds up, 100 milliseconds down to, exactly 20 to, plus 20 minus % on the pitch. That's what it sounds like. And like the way the notes bend into each other, it's a texture thing. Regardless, we don't have to keep, it is what it is. No, because the AI doesn't know anything because it's AI. That's not how it works. Overall, the production is really cool, and I like the groove quite a bit, and I like the sound selection. It feels a little bit. I'm assuming this is work in progress for sure. A good master will do a lot. The kick is a little bit hot, and I could use more sub fundamental here. So if we pull up and we can listen to just the very low end. Of the mix here. There's a fair amount of kick in that region, but there's very little of that subby fundamental. So I think that the kick could come back a tiny bit, and you're whatever your real low sub bass, whether it's EQing or saturating that specific sound or bringing it up in the middle, bringing it up in the mix a little bit. If you're using multiple different bass synths, whichever one is the most fundamental, real low component. You can hear the kick nice and presently, but there's not a ton of low sub. Yeah, mix-wise, I think those would be some thoughts. Obviously it's quite short, and I'm sure it's going to go into a bigger, fuller groove at some point. This still feels like kind of an intro groove that is building and building up to something that's a little bit more full and punchy, which I would imagine would come later on, maybe after a second drop or something like that. But as a starting point, I think it's really nice. I think you've got a nice sound set pulled up. That's an interesting observation, Cakes. Yeah, I hear what you mean. How like there's that topper synth situation, and then the bass is very plucky, and those aren't. Yeah, they're not quite lined up, so there could be a bit of a offsetting on LFO there, or however you're modulating that top synth, the really kind of gritty. I don't know if it's granular or whatever. Having those line up a little bit better could make it groove harder. I would agree with that.
Fantasies of fiction within. Wild are we high, or is it lucid desire? Wild.
But yeah, a couple of ideas for you. I would just, I would have it definitely drop into a real heavy groove, build it out a little bit more. More sub fundamental. Yeah, but I think like the whole build and the filter sweep, all that stuff is good. Like I said, good sound set, good sound design. So overall, a very good start, I think, Devour. Nice job. And thank you for sharing. Okay, so we've got 3 more folks in queue here. I might give us a slot for one more. And then we'll go ahead and jump into order 1. So once I see another feedback come in, I will go ahead and close queue. But we have 1 slot left. Alien Rave, you are up next, my friend. What you got going on, buddy? What's up, Rio? This is nice, man. It's super creative. Well crafted. I think it's got a good arrangement. It goes a couple of different nice places. I know last time you and I were talking about we're talking about Daria Core and adjacent stuff, and that idea of like using different buses and having like a Crush Destructo bus and then a not Crush Destructo of that whole kind of thinking. Are you trying that here? Because there's definitely a lot of elements in the mix that feel nice and clean, and they're contrasted really well against really heavily distorted stuff, which I think is very cool. Okay, interesting. Well, you did a good job, I think. I think this first sort of drop here, I could use a little more definition on the kick here, a little bit more like transient smack. I think the clipping may be robbing a little bit of that. which is probably just the nature of the sample that you're using, or however you've layered that kick sound together. Really nice melodic layering here, though. I like how it builds in. And then this section feels very, very nicely balanced. Here, I do want to check, just because I'm curious. I know this would be a style where I would probably be like, hey, don't worry too much about your low end being super mono. But it is, which is good. Yeah, it's nice and tight down in the lows, so that's good. It's nice overall. Yeah, I think just a little bit. I think that the second drop feels quite well balanced. There's a few things that poke out in the sort of break and the rise up to the second drop, just volume wise. And then, yeah, first drop also feels pretty good. But I think, yeah, I mainly just, yeah, I want like more transient, more smack on that kick. And yeah, maybe balancing a little bit more into the kick against the other elements. But it's cool, man. It's very creative. My ears have warmed up considerably to this kind of stuff because I've been listening to it a little bit. Because, like we were talking about last time, the Daria Core, the first record that kind of apparently spawned it as a genre, is I've listened to several times now because it's honestly kind of amazing. I did. Yeah, I went on a bit of a rabbit hole the other day and ended up watching. I don't know how you say his producer name, but this guy, Zaev, Kaiv, Zive, Xaev, he had a production breakdown that was like 4 hours long on a whole EP that he did that was really, really, really interesting to watch. I didn't watch the entire thing, but I watched, I don't know, 45 minutes of it just to see how this kind of stuff gets Zave. Okay, great. Yeah. So I watched an hour of Zave breaking down a couple of tracks. And it was really, really interesting because it's really just, yes, Birdly core. It's just a lot of land. Like there's nothing in there that's super crazy from like an engineering and production perspective. It's just a lot of really smart layering. And the thing that I found really interesting is there's a lot of attention to separating things in the frequency spectrum and in the imaging spectrum, which is really just like good mixing, in a very traditional sense, but just being like, hey, every sound needs to have its place. And even if you're doing stuff that's really wild and out there and distorted and using tons of samples, like breaking down the layers makes a lot of sense in like a traditional mixing perspective where it's like, okay, we've got a really bright and a really wide thing. And then we've got more of a mid-rangey thing that's closer in. And then we've got a second mid-ranging thing, but that's really far out in the stereo spectrum. And then I've got a kick down here, but I know it's going to be distorted. So that's going to occupy the center top, and even though he wasn't really talking about it in that way, just looking at his mix and like having him go through all the elements, I'm like, yeah, you have it's what I always say, right? Like everybody knows way more about this stuff than they realize because we've all just grown up listening to a lot of music. You don't necessarily need to know the technical definitions to be able to explain it in a really technical way, but it's like everybody kind of gets that intuitively, right? And good producers, whether they know the technical stuff or not, they know it like on in a sort of intellectual or academic level. They know it instinctually, and they know how to get it to do what they want. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a very good It's a very good stream, and he's a very, very talented kid. I was very impressed. One thing is the horror score you're going to do next for a commission project. Everything we do, Rio, is for commissioned projects. I have not had time to sit down and make music for myself in a very long time. Well, actually, that's not true. The live looping stuff I've been working on is kind of for personal or fun. But no, I wish I had. Oh no, you're fine, man. I wish I had time to. I have so much fucking work, you guys, which I shouldn't complain about. It's a good problem to have. I was talking to somebody at Discord earlier, and they were like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "I have too much work." And they're like, "Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry." And I'm like, in my business, having too much work is a really great thing. So I really should not complain about it. But Zave brings a lot more of a bro step vibe to Daria Core, one of the best to do it. Yeah, for sure. It is it's a cool video. I recommend checking it out. I definitely learned a couple of things. Over on the YouTube side, Amanda, you win commenter of the year, Amanda. I believe you're speaking Italian. I do not speak Italian. But I appreciate your enthusiasm, and the words that I do recognize are all very positive. So thank you. I appreciate that. But anyways, nice work on this, man. Hope there's a few helpful ideas in there for you, and thank you for sharing. Okay, I am going to go ahead and close. We had a couple more people jump in, but that is fine. I'm going to go ahead and close queue for today, and we'll get through. It looks like we have 5 in queue. So we'll jump through those real quick. Thank you all for submitting. But Ian, Mr. Ian McKay, how's it going? Working in FL Studio, mainly looking for feedback on mixing. Started this before transferring all my files to a new SSD. Sadly lost the Vocal Chop sample. So not much I can do as far as going into the project, any major changes. So all I really have to work with is the rendered master, which still has the sample. Where did you get the sample from? Because if it's in Splice, you could potentially go back and find it there. I know they have you can like search your own library of stuff you've down. Cymatics, okay. Any feedback I can get to apply to the master track would be appreciated. This will be a part of the EP release this year. Okay, very cool. Just while I'm thinking about it, you could go on Reddit onto like r/music production or r/EDM production and post in there the story and where you originally found it. Somebody could probably find it for you. What's up, Jibby? And over on the YouTube side, Ozzy, how's it going? Good to see you. This sounds phenomenal, man. This sounds absolutely phenomenal. I would have two notes for you here. One is a mix thing, and it's just so I know that you can't tweak it, but I will mention it regardless. Be careful with the releases, with the release time on your side chains. If you could go back into the session, that's literally the only thing I would tell you to change, is just tighten up the release time a little bit, because it's a relatively short kick sample, but the side chain is like hanging a little bit. So you've kind of got a situation where like kick happens, right? So like here's our kick, right? And then the side chain is kind of like here-ish. So like kick happens, triggers the side chain, and the side chain kind of hangs a little bit longer than I feel like it needs to really sculpt around that kick. So there's like a little split second where the track is still ducked, but the kick sample has finished playing through. There's still a bit of that going on. Other than that, it's really clean. It's beautifully balanced. Your low end is fantastic. I feel like I want just a touch more like richness out of the kind of true mid band. So thinking like 300-400 up to maybe 2K ish. In here. And on the master, how I would go about that is using a multiband saturation tool like Ozone. I would just add a little bit of crunch. Trying to find a good. Oh yeah, like triads in this. So here it is without. Oh, come back here. Here it is without. And then we'll add it in. Out. In. It's just adding a little bit of richness in that mid-range. It's just like pumping it out a little bit. It overall, it feels just a little scooped. It feels a little smiley face curve on the EQ. So adding just a little bit, or you could even just boost it with like a dynamic EQ or a regular EQ somewhere in that region. But I like the idea of adding a little bit of saturation to that area. It just makes it sound like a little richer, a little sweeter. A little bit more aggressive. We tend to, yes, it's super full, and we tend to think of aggression as coming in the air band, and it definitely does, but, I think a nice, yep, I'm using the exciter just set, like, I have it set to triode at, I don't know, 50%, 40%, from 200 to 2K, somewhere in there, play around with it. But yeah, it's just it's a subtle little, a nice subtle little bump in that region, just richens things a little. It's like adding a pat of butter to the sauce, just thickens it out a little bit nicely. Without it's a pretty subtle change, but I think it's worth it. But yeah, great job. Other than that, it sounds phenomenal, man. It sounds absolutely fantastic, and it is 100% release ready. That is for sure. So really, really, really great work on that. Like I said, the balance is great. Your low end is rock solid, really clean, really clear, nice and present, but not overwhelming. Top end detail is fantastic. Sound choices are great. All that stuff is super on point. But yeah. Just a little more love in the mid range, and I think you'll be in exceptional shape. But thank you very much for sharing. Very, very cool track. Arthur, you are up, my friend. Arthur Hills 99. Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure to hear what you're working on. Working in Logic, very cool. Sound choices, mixing, and songwriting are kind of our focuses here. Style is ambient house. Okay. I love it. I love ambient house.
I wish we could just sit down together.
Gotcha.
And forgive each other for our mistakes. And realize that we were just kids learning to love. Realize that we were just kids learning to love. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, your voice sounds phenomenal, man. And I really appreciate how naturally you're letting it shine through in the mix. You're not tuning it a ton. You're not covering it up in verb and stuff. I'd even say it's maybe a touch like under. I would compress it a little bit more.
Mistakes and realize that we were just kids learning to love.
Yeah, I think you could get away with compressing it a little bit, not a little bit more, not crazy amounts. It's in a good spot, but I just want it. It's a really dynamic performance, and this is where we reach for compression in like the kind of truest sense of what we use compression for, right? To even out the dynamic of the lows and the highs, the dynamics of a performance. So I think a gentle, really clean compressor, something like an LA2A or an LA3A style, like an optical style, slower, that rides the vocal a little bit more, or if you have a tool like Silk, would be really great for that. Arvox from Waves would be great for that. A really natural, not over the top compressor, and just grab it a little bit more to even it out. But not to where it's pumping or feels like a crazy in your face, R&B or pop thing. I think that would be a good call. I could also use a little bit more. How's it going, Hantif? Good to see you. Queue is closed for today. We're just doing a couple of quick feedbacks, and then we're going to get into some horror sci-fi scoring here in just a little bit. I think you've got a de-esser on your voice, which is good. It might be working a little hard. I can hear the S's getting a little bit dark, which to me usually is kind of the signature sound of a de-esser doing a little bit more work than it needs to. So you could probably back off on that a tiny bit, and then I would grab an EQ and add like 12K and up, just a gentle shelf. Which, since you don't really have a whole lot else in the mix, I can do here.
And forgive each other for our mistakes. And realize that we were just kids learning to love.
a little bit of this air band up here. Like this is a really gentle shelf starting at 7-ish, but really focused, sloping up above 10K, up in that air band.
Realized that we were just kids learning to love.
There it is without, with. Again, it's subtle and your voice sounds great as it is, but adding a little bit of that air band, it just really, it gives the voice an immediacy and an intimacy and a texture that really helps it feel kind of here. Right in your face in a really, really nice way. And I think that's really appropriate for a vocal performance like this. But it's an exceptionally cool piece, really unique, really atmospheric, amazing vocal performance on your part, great writing, nice harmonies, great treatment of everything. I think the balance overall is good. I could use more of the voice, but I think that'll come more from just upping that compression just a skosh, so that it's writing a little bit more, and things are a little more upfront and over those kind of atmospheric background elements. But yeah, it's an exceptionally cool piece, man. It's really, really, really neat, and I love hearing stuff like this, and doing this kind of stuff takes balls, because there's nothing to hide behind, right? You can't hope that if like in a vocal performance particularly, you can't rely on a crazy synth or a attention grabbing lead or drum groove or something, and then be like, well, maybe I made a few mistakes here or whatever. It's like, no, it is your voice and it is out there and you left it pretty untreated, and that takes courage, my friend, and I love that, and we're rewarded in you doing that by a really, really wonderful. Really, really wonderful piece, great melodies. It's excellent overall. So yeah, a little more air band, a little more compression, back off in the de-essing a touch, and I think you'll be in exceptional shape here. But thank you very much for sharing. I do appreciate it. Okay, let's keep it cooking right along here. Rio, you are up next, my friend. Working in FL, looking for thoughts on pretty much everything here. Let's see what the deal is. Okay, very neat. Drums are completely placeholder. I've just thrown a splice sample in there. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, my first comment was going to be that the beat is really dark and a bit overly kind of like rolled off and a bit buried. But if those are placeholder, I think the groove, like the idea of the groove and the feel is good. Like what the drums are doing is good. But yeah, I would definitely rebuild that with much more like aggressive, bright samples. I think this is a really ripping, very cool sound. I think it builds in nicely, but what I would caution you with here is that if we look at just the spectral representation here of um, of this sound. It is very broad spectrum. It has a lot of presence. This kind of mix of sounds here has a lot of presence all throughout the frequency spectrum, all the way down from, the first kind of fundamental is at about 60, all the way up through the frequency spectrum pretty evenly. So it sounds very cool, but what you're going to run into, it's also extremely wide. If we take a look at it on the Lisa you'll see, or just the spec version of Lisa, but it's extremely wide, right? So all that means is that as you get into adding drums and potentially adding vocals and stuff, those layered synths there's going to be a lot of competition because you kind of have a stack of sounds here that is wide from top to bottom and encompasses kind of all frequencies. So just make sure that as you start adding stuff, if there's a way you can maybe look at the different layers and elements of this stack that you've built here. It's great sound, but you want to always be thinking of, long term in terms of what you want to have in the track. So like if you want vocals in here, you're going to have some, would an EQ carving solve that? Depends on the sound, and it depends on how many layers are in that stack. It certainly could help it a lot. But I would think less about just trying to cut a bunch of EQ out of stuff. And I would think more about using the sounds, more selectively, right? So I don't know how many layers you've got in there of different, like, it sounds like there's quite a bit going on, but I don't know if that's one really big, wide ripping bass sound and then like a synth in the middle, or if that's like 9 different things. But yeah, because if you start just going in and like carving up a ton of EQ, that can definitely work. But it's not necessary. I would much sooner reach for like, oh, I'm gonna build a sound like that out of a bunch of different layers, and then selectively use them either in different places in the track, or selectively treat them, either using imaging or for sure EQ, or by like if it's a synth patch, messing with the preset a little bit, or messing with the patch a little bit to clear some space that way. Because like for example, take like a really sound designy bass sound, for example, right? You can go in and through building that patch or looking at that patch, reduce the amount of, let's say, mid-range presence that it has to make room for maybe more of a mid-range keys sound, or for a vocal sample or something like that. It's better to do that and actually alter the pitch so that it still sounds kind of as good as it can, as opposed to just using a preset or going with the patch and then carving a bunch of EQ out of it, right? The difference is probably a little bit negligible between those two ideas, but I'm still always going to like try to reach for the patch first, or affect the sound in another way before I just start chopping up a bunch of things with a bunch of surgical EQ. It's an easier and cleaner way to do it, and it ensures that everything kind of sounds as good as it can, and it also makes you think a little bit more critically about your arrangement. It's the idea of like carving with EQ and fixing it that way is kind of like, oh, I've made problems for myself and now I have to solve those problems. Doing it the other way is you're never even creating problems for yourself in the first place. That is an alternate way of putting it that is probably a lot cleaner. But it's a cool sound. It's a very cool stack. It's, beautifully layered. It's got a lot of nuance to it. But I think that's part of why the drums, even though it's just a splice sample, the drums are getting a little bit lost in the sauce because there is so much other information present across all frequencies and across the stereo spectrum. So I would just, I'm not even saying like, oh, change it fundamentally, because it's a very cool sound. It's more of a mindset thing, right? Keeping that in mind kind of from the jump on a track like this. Just being aware of that. So, but yeah, it's very cool bones. I would be interested to see where it goes from there. But thank you very much for sharing. I appreciate it. But we're going to move on. We got 2 more here. We've got Duly Noted, followed by our new friend, Far Horizon. Thank you guys for your patience and hanging out. I appreciate it. But Dooley, you are up next, my guy. Let's check out what you got going on. Yeah, of course, Rio. I appreciate you sharing, man. Always. Working in Ableton, feedback more or less on everything here. I love it. Ev, how's it going? Yeah, jump in the Discord, buddy. Absolutely. Also, I forgot to pin this. How's it going, Anga? How's it going, Ray? Thank you guys for tuning in. Q is unfortunately closed for today. We're just doing a couple of quick feedbacks here at the beginning of stream, and then we're going to be getting into scoring some game music. So I would love it if you guys stuck around for that. But I am usually live every day, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S., 8 p.m. Central European time. So I would welcome you guys to come back at the beginning of stream tomorrow, and I would love to hear what you guys got going on. But we got a lot of work booked into the studio these days, so I have to abridge my feedbacks a little bit, unfortunately. That's sax, so that could be like a little guitar solo or a guitar sample of some kind. I don't know. What is that, Julie? Is that sax? Cool. sorry for skimming a little bit. We just, I want to, make sure we got time for Far Horizon here. Dooley, this is, I want to use the word perfect. I literally have one note for you, and my note is just this. Just duck a little bit out at like 250, 300. It's just a little bit woofy, and that, which all tracks end up being a little woofy in that reason, usually. Yeah, there's a tiny bit of build up there. That's it. I mean, that's all I got for you, man. This sounds phenomenal. The mix is beautifully balanced, low end, super clean. I don't hear any. The evolution is great. How's it going, Ultrapick? Thank you for asking. It's better. It still is not 100%, which is why we're doing a bit of a shorter stream today. But I talked for 8 hours on Monday. 200 to 300, season it to taste. I've got it set just slapdash here at like minus 3 dB at 275. We did a 5-hour feedback stream on Monday, followed by I had an interview on a podcast with Lost State Studios, which was a ton of fun. But we ended up talking for 3 hours, and so I went live at 2 p.m. my time, and I didn't shut off my camera and stop fucking yapping until 10 p.m. It was a lot. So I didn't stream yesterday. Normally I stream every day, Monday through Friday, but I woke up and I literally could not talk. It hurt very badly to talk because I was just screaming about music for 8 straight hours. But, it was a ton of fun. It was a good day. But yeah, Dooley, this is really just, this is really exceptional. I'm sure, different producers would have different ideas for like sounds or things, but what's important to me is not specific production or sound choices. That's never what I listen for. I just listen for like holes where I'm like, oh, it feels like there could be a melody of some kind here. Could be a sax or a synth or a piano or a Rhodes or a gerbil falling down a flight of stairs, but there could be a melodic element here. And I don't hear anything like there's a place for everything. Everything has its place. Balanced, like I said, beautifully balanced, punchy in the lows. You could add a little grit if you have a multi-band saturation tool like Ozone here. Like I'm adding a little grit, 2K to 10K, so kind of like upper mids, low highs. That sounds kind of nice. I don't think it's necessary. It makes it feel less clean and less kind of liquidy and gives it a little bit more crunch. That's an option. But yeah, I mean, these are such minor things. I really, that's kind of all I got for you, man. It really sounds exceptional. Really, really, really nice job on this. Very, very impressive. Extremely polished, ready to go. Volume feels great. Masterful drum and bass. The drum parts are all fantastic. Gold star, A+, phenomenal job, man. Absolutely phenomenal job. Man, thank you as always for sharing. I can tell you worked a lot on it. It feels crafted. It feels very, very crafted. And there's some really cool transitions in there. Really nice little moments of texture. It feels very done. It feels very like a very, very complete thought that is very crafted. I like that word for it. It's artisanal drum and bass. Great job, man. And thank you again for sharing. Okay, we got one more feedback here that we're going to do for our new friend, Far Horizon. Let's see here. Working in Bitwig. Very cool. I played around with Bitwig for a little while. It's very fun DAW. Looking for feedback on more or less everything here. Okay. Let's check out what you got going on, buddy. I might skim just a wee bit because this one's a bit longer. Usually I go about 3.5 minutes on tracks. So just to let you know, don't take offense. I would love to hear the whole thing, but we got work to do. How do you mean Far Horizon? You put 3, and I can already tell you have more than 3, so. What string libraries are you using, by the way? How obviously there's a few different drum layers going on here. How is your like main kick and snare pattern? What are you using for that? It feels very organic. It feels not. It doesn't feel like a real kit necessarily, but it feels. Did you play that? Like that's how I do all my drums is on the Roland V drum kit. Or are you a drummer? Played it. Okay, very cool. Using what? Like what library? I assume it's a V drum kit triggering a library. Are you playing on an electronic kit or just like finger drumming it? I'm gonna jam to this on drums for a second because I really want to because it's sick as fuck. It sounds really nice. It's very atmospheric, very like Fortet, bonobo-ish, which is all shit I absolutely love. Really, really nice layering. I never hear samples with brushes, which A plus. I love I think it's a Darbuka sample in there. Hand drum is really, really, really nice. Really cool layers. I think mix-wise, it's really, really well balanced. But I do think there's some build-up, kind of like with Dooley's track, although it's a little bit more prominent here. There's some build-up in that kind of low-mid region, that kind of 250 area. Particularly the snare sound, the main snare sound has a lot of like whump to it, which I know some people really like that in snares. Personally, I don't. I like pretty crispy, crunchy, more upper mid heavy snare sounds. So like I would Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like crunchier, less, especially if you're using like rock. Like I feel like a lot of more rock kits, like the GGD stuff and the Steven Slate stuff have these snares that are tuned pretty low and are very like arena rock boosh kind of snare sounds. And I personally gravitate away from those because I just find it gets like muddy. Gotcha. Okay, very cool. Yeah, here. Do you mind if I just groove to this on drums for a second? Because the way that you're playing reminds me a lot of like Mark Juliana and like kind of like modern, very modern dudes, which is shit that I love. But the other thing I was going to say is like it's beautiful layering. I feel like you could push it. You could push it even further with the drum layering. Hang on one second here. Let me make sure I have a good kit pulled up for this. Yes, I do. Because it's you're very much doing the like. And so I want a little more consistency to it, I think would be cool. And you get that at the end. You kind of build into it. Have a lot of ghosty stuff going on. I think what I'm missing even more than the ghosty stuff is a really a consistent through line, because you've got great layers that like bubble up and go away and they're filter sweeping and then like the hand drum thing kind of comes in and goes away and the brushes. You've got some of that stuff going on with the brushes sounds. That's all great. But I feel like there's not like one rhythmic through line that's tying the whole thing together. Well, it's not even getting the time right because the time is good, but just like like a shaker, like a hi-hat, just doing something really predictable, because all your other layers are really unpredictable and really organic, which is great and gives it a really unique feel. But I want, like, my ears having a hard time being like, here's a groove that I can sink into. It's all real. And then little is coming in. But I like the best grooves to me, and this is more of a taste, my personal thing, is just having a really clean. Like, you can play around with everything else around it in a huge way and have a bunch of really interesting stuff going on. But the ride or a snare or a hi-hat really consistently is tying the whole thing together and really giving you like a grid, your ear a really good grid to like adhere to. So that could be like an additional sample layer of some stuff like that, or it could literally just be like a nice something like that in there, just as an additional layer, even really tight, and kind of in the back, but just something to like give it a grid. You know what I mean? In my experience, that it helps things feel a little more like approachable, and it helps people just like lock in and be like, and like vibe. Yeah, shaker would be perfect. I have a whole massive crate back there of shakers and tambourines and weird little goofy things I've gotten from all over the world for purposes exactly like this. So, Drew, how's it going, buddy? Other than that, though, really unique textures, really great vibe. I like the bass sound a lot. There's, I can tell you're going for just really atmospheric here. So like, I could say just a little bit. Yeah, this is our last feedback for the day, Jake, and then we're going to jump into order one in just a second. I don't think it needs anything else. I think the soundscape you've got is great for something that is vibey and really atmospheric, and you kind of like the drums are almost the melody here, which I love. Because that's really rare to see in tracks like this. There is some room if you wanted to do something a little bit more melodic, kind of up top. I think there is room for that, and you could get away with it, and it might, especially towards the end of the tune, give it a bit more of like a climactic moment of arrival. more vocal layers. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I hear the one in there. Which is very cool. But again, this is, and all of this for the record, man, is just like taste and personal choice stuff. I don't think it needs it. I think it's a very, very cool, very, very vibey piece overall. And honestly, you could release it as is, and it sounds fucking great. The only like technical thing is I'm like a little bit much in that 250 region. Other than that, I think it's exceptional. I'm just trying to give you like, you know, more creative like idea. Hey, if you wanted to do this, I hear a bit of a space here. But it's great, man. You clearly know what you're doing in terms of layering and sound design. More than probably anyone who's ever submitted feedback here, your approach to drums is like really similar to how I do a lot of drum stuff, which is acoustic samples played live and layered very much in a way that like a drummer thinks, with a lot of like percussion layering and a lot of like cool stuff in that direction. So I really appreciate that. Very cone sound. Yeah, for sure, B3. How's it going, by the way? So yeah, exceptional work, man. Really, really, really exceptional work. For past 20 years. Hey, me too. Yeah, no, absolutely. It sounds fantastic. I mean, are you like working? Are you scoring stuff? Are you touring? Like, what's your is it just a long time obsession hobby? Did before. Okay, very cool. Now you have a work indeed. Yeah, you know, it happens. But also obsession. Yep, 100%. I know it well. Yeah, no, I've been full time for 16 years now. So most of what I do nowadays is game scoring, and that's kind of a perfect opportunity to smoothly transition into what we're working on today. But yeah, I am. Yeah, it's very, very fun work. It's very, very fun work. I will say that. But yeah, I started my career also touring as a bass player mainly. You're the PRO, good, very good. We love to see it. But yeah, I started my career as touring, playing bass. I was based out of Denver, Colorado for a long time, and toured a ton for like the first 5 or 6 years of my career, and then got very burnt out on that and pivoted into production stuff. Ran a commercial recording studio for a long time. Now I am out in New York City, and I get to just hang out in here with all my toys all day and write music for games. It's pretty neat. I can't complain. So, but I'm stoked you popped in the stream, man. Stuff sounds phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So thank you very much for sharing. I appreciate it, and you are welcome. I mean, all are welcome here, but you are welcome here as much as you care to be around, because we do some fun things. And I like having guys who've been at it for a while, and because we have a lot of like really young producers too, who are either just getting started or, you know, have a good ear for stuff, but they don't know like the really deep technical end of things. So that's kind of what I try to do around here is like, you know, hey, here's how you set up a compressor. Here's how you gain stage things. Hey, I'm exactly the same age. So yeah, no, we're old now. Welcome to being old. But oh well, shit. There you go, Drew. All right. Well, we'll all ride off into the sunset together, I suppose. Anyways, okay, let's pivot into doing some work here. They need a nudge, exactly. But no, so this is for a game called Order 1. And Order 1 it's a project I'm extremely excited to be a part of. Can now, I think, pretty well officially announce that we will be, I think I've talked about it before, but we will be working with another composer on this game, kind of collaborating and writing stuff together a bit. And then also he'll just be handling kind of the broader theme stuff. I'll be handling more environmental music, But we're going to be working with Paweł Blaszczak on this game, who's an amazing Polish composer. He did the music for The Witcher, Dying Light, Dead Island, a bunch of really, really incredible games. So that's very, very exciting. But we've done one piece / two pieces. It's always kind of hard to parse out like how many pieces when you're composing vertically the way that we are for this game. But we're on to the second section of the game. Basically, there's I think 8 total sectors in this kind of open world. The setting of the game is you are on a space station which is orbiting a black hole. It's very kind of equal parts horror, stealth action. It is a VR title, which is really exciting. I'm a huge VR guy. I have a VR treadmill in the back there. So it's very like Dead Space meets Metal Gear Solid is kind of like an easy-ish way to kind of give you an overview of the vibe of it. We do also have the project lead, Jake, in chat with us, which is always very fun to have the client hanging out, yelling at me. It's great. It's very, very helpful. But the first track was for the opening section of the game, which has been more or less completed now, and that is... You start the game in this kind of radiation shielding area. Obviously, you're in a space station orbiting a black hole, so radiation shielding is very important. So it starts there, and we did kind of a very orchestral piece that leads in under the tutorial, and then there is an event. Things go horribly wrong, as they do. And we did the first suite of tracks for that radiation shielding area, which each of these areas we're composing more or less vertically is what we call it. And so the idea is less writing a discrete kind of linear piece of music that plays for 2 or 3 minutes and that's that. The idea here is thinking more in variations and layers, right? So this is what we call an interactive or an adaptive implementation in a game where you have different parts of the music that are triggered by in-game events. So there's a lot of different ways to go about doing this. You could have different layers of a song that are triggered by, say, different enemy types. Maybe you're in a dungeon and there's 5 different types of enemies you can encounter. And each one of those enemies could have a separate layer assigned to them that only plays when you are actively engaged in combat. That could be an example. Or the track could change as you progress past certain checkpoints or thresholds in a level. What we're doing here is mostly the music is primarily tied to enemy alert state. So we have an ambiance track, which is for just kind of baseline, right? You're not in active conflict. The enemies don't know you're there. You're not close to any of them. Things are okay, and you're just kind of exploring, looting, what have you. Then, of course, we have a full combat track. You've been spotted. There's a lot of stealth mechanics in this game. So that's, again, alert state is kind of the name of the game, pun intended. So we have a full combat track. They've seen you. You're actively fighting. We then have an escape track, which triggers once their alert status goes down, but they are still like looking for you, but you're fleeing. And then we have what we're calling like the sneak version of the track, which is for maybe you're like in an air vent or you're hiding around a corner and you're in close proximity to an enemy, but they don't know you're there. So it just amps up the tension a little bit. But we call it vertical composing because we are thinking about a set of pieces that all use the same sounds and similar layers, and you can kind of adaptively move in between those tracks, again, based on alert state and all these other things. So this is the second track, the second sector of the game, which is called crew quarters. So this is where the crew of the space station has, their beds, their bunks, their barracks, probably a mess hall of some kind, cafeteria of some kind, restrooms, showers, lockers, all that kind of stuff. So we've got some elements that reflect that a little bit subtly in kind of a diegetic way. But hey, Papa, good to see you. Yes, let's take a listen to what we have so far. So we have, I would say 99% versions of the ambiance layer as well as the combat layer. Maybe not 99, like 90%. They're 90% there. So this is the ambiance layer. Oh, you guys can't hear anything. Thank you for letting me know. I have to click on a button and then click on a different button and then click on that. Hang on. Sorry. I had it set up to for feedback. I got to change it. Okay, here we go. Now we have sound. So that is the ambiance for just generally exploring the level. Now we will have the option to do a few different variations of this with kind of varying levels of intensity. Over on the YouTube side, Cabbage Farmer, how's it going? We are scoring a horror sci-fi game. Strings in the end could be expanded. Interesting. Okay, yeah, we could potentially look at that. But yes, we have some really gentle strings. Jake, I got that melody that you liked in there. Kind of subtly. So we have violins being shrill and weird. We have low basses, just kind of droning as part of the texture. We then have a couple of bass synth layers here. Come on, Studio One. Catch up. I know it's a big session, but it always does this. It's trying to autosave, and it will autosave in just a second. But until it does, it's going to pretend like it's frozen. Oh, guys. I am... Studio One has been still misbehaving. I love it. Did it really just freeze for absolutely no reason? Did it actually freeze, or is it trying to save? Oh, Studio One. Why are you not responding? Let's see if that helps it. Nope, it's frozen. Cool. We love it. Hang on just 1 second here. Great timing. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Let me reboot it. And then we will keep talking about that. In the meantime, how are you guys doing? No worries, Drew. Thank you. Yes, being a dad's very important. Go be a dad. That's excellent. But yes, please come back absolutely anytime. Oh, for the love of God. I gotta go kill the process manually in task. Oh my God, you guys, I'm sorry. Bear with me for a second here. No, you rule. There we go. Okay, so we got to go. PowerShell, talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Oh, good Lord. You'd think that with the amount of money that they put into developing software like this, it would work, but it doesn't. Task, kill. format this. Oh, good gravy. Quick, someone say something interesting in chat while I figure this out. What I'm trying to do here is, oh, that's what you want. Okay. Gotcha. Fantastic. 3516. I'm trying to use PowerShell to kill the process, which even that is not working. Access is denied. Are you serious? There we go. Okay, we got it back. Thank Christ. Good Lord. Anyways. Sorry about that. Now we just need to wait for it to boot back up. I love it when things freeze. Isn't it just great? Isn't it just wonderful? Isn't it just the funnest? Oh, Lord. Anyways. Now we get to wait for it to scan all 1,300 of my plugins. But no, so our goal for today, before we were so rudely interrupted by technical difficulties, we have the ambiance version of the track. We have the combat version of the track, which we will listen to in just a second. And so we need to focus on the escape and the sneak versions, which, because we already have most of the sounds chosen, and because we have like a good idea of how the layering needs to work and all that kind of stuff, it's a pretty easy process, pretty expeditious process of just kind of like adding in some additional automation, removing some layers. We have some references here. We can pull that up in the background here as well. We have some references that the developers have provided of stuff that they like that will kind of give us a good idea of what we're going after tonally with those different variations of the track. So that is our goal today, is if we can get the escape and sneak versions, then this one will be in very, very good shape. Come here, order one master sheet. It's thinking. Also probably is not great that I have all of this running on one machine, including my stream. But it's very difficult to... it's difficult to have a second machine just kind of based on what I do. It's very useful to be able to route audio in all kinds of different ways. Okay, so Opus is going to think about loading all of our string samples here. But yeah, that's the ambiance layer. Our combat layer. Oh, Jesus. Let's make sure that, yeah, okay, that's good. Our combat layer is this. So that is combat. So, full, till death, it's super intense, which is based roughly, more or less, on this. The reference for that one was from Dead Space, I believe. Yeah. Like very industrial. The Dead Space stuff is a lot more orchestral, which we want some of in this project. But we're leaning a little bit more synthy, a little bit more 80s than the Dead Space kind of sound. So, I tried to take that kind of an idea and push it more. Like very similar tempo, very similar feel. Kind of cyberpunky a little bit. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here. We've got a couple of lovely bass sounds. Real low sub fundamental, which that's a great trick if you're doing really sound design heavy bass stuff, is to have an additional bass that is really just worried about that true sine wave, really low, rich sound. So you can kind of blend that to taste and not have to worry about making your super sound designy bass take care of that while also having good distortion and stuff. We have that with quite a bit of verb on it. And then a real ripping layer. We have all those. Then in our percussion, we've got kind of an 80s kit buried back in there as part of the textures, which is kind of fun, like a Lindrum-ish kind of a thing. We then have some great war drums, courtesy of Action Strikes. With a little bit of OTT compression on them so they feel nice and present. We then have a bunch of like junk percussion. Yeah, sure, we could do that. I mean, only war drums would be... The thing I would probably remove, I don't know if I would go only war drums, because they're one small part of like a lot of percussion stuff. But I could either bump them up a little bit volume-wise, or just the main layer I would pull out for intensity variations would be this junk percussion situation. So the idea was, because this takes place in crew quarters, right? I grabbed just like a bunch of random, like a wok, a cookie sheet, some boots, like things that you would find in the crew quarters section of a space station, hypothetically, and used those to build this whole groove. Obviously, it's like very heavily affected, but, like that's like banging on a cookie sheet. This is, I think, rubbing a drumstick against the cookie sheet. What was this? Oh, that is muted currently. That's tapping on the side of the wok. So there's just like a bunch of like interesting kind of improvised diegetic percussion textures in here, and all blended together with a bunch of distortion and stuff. Really nice industrial layer. And then the sound that kind of pins the whole game together, honestly, is this, which is literally an actual recording from NASA of, I don't know how they interpreted the data, but it is the sound of an actual black hole, which I think is quite cool. And is going to kind of lay a lot of the groundwork and foundation for tying the whole game together as an experience, because it's an incredibly cool, spooky sound that just has great texture to it. And then finally, I mean, we've got like some reversed crashes and, you know, topper little SVX elements like that. But we also have this, which is an elephant with a bunch of, you know, pitch sort of work and a ton of reverb, some clipping. So, yeah. Keeps the phase clean as well. Oh, on the basses? Yeah, absolutely. Very, very much so. So, and I think actually that second bass might be meant to only be in the end now that I'm looking at it. Yes, that sounds more right, but I am going to up the reverb on that because I actually liked it with a fair bit more reverb there. So we're going to extend out the reverb tail. But yeah, so like for an intensity variation here, I would remove the junk kit. That'd be good. And then we also have a layer, and I don't know if I'm going to keep this in. I thought it was kind of cool, but we have a layer down here playing on the kit, just like a big kind of like rock groove thing that's just adding a little bit of texture, particularly the end. So I don't know if that's really needed. Like that's pretty heavy on its own. I don't know if we necessarily need that as a layer. So yeah, that's in pretty good shape. And what's really important is that this is how you test this kind of stuff, right? Like we just listen to this for a second and it's like, oh no, we've been caught. Transitions really, really nicely, and they feel really cohesive together, right? Because they're built out of the same stuff. So now we're going to turn our attention to, like I said, these sneak and escape versions of this. So let's look at our references here real quick. Let's worry about sneak first. So we have two references here on this sort of sneak version. So main thing here is tension. Like it's not super high energy necessarily. It's just very like, don't get spotted, go slow, be careful, all that kind of stuff. So that's reference one. The other one I think is going to be Metal Gear Solid, if I remember correctly. I haven't looked at these in a couple of days. Yeah. So very like chanting, very tight, very controlled. It's just all about building tension, right? So let's muck about with that here. So what I do, my approach to this typically is I start with the combat, because combat is always kind of like, you know, it's going to have the most stuff in it layer wise. And it's a good way to like build a sound set that, because you have to have a lot of things going on, it's a good way to build a sound set that I know I can safely remove stuff from, and everything's still going to very much have like its own space in the mix of everything, right? So basically you just kind of, I copy it out from there into sort of 4 copies, and then we just start pulling stuff out of it and removing things selectively. So like I'll start thinking about like this whole, you know, like the war drum part. We will probably use the sound, but we're not going to use those specific loops. You know, the basses, we will probably have maybe one of the, like the really low sub bass might go in there. This ARP, let's hear this ARP. That might have a place. If it does, we're gonna put quite a bit of effects on it. Strings also might have a space here, but would do something different, something much more tensiony. Probably more similar to what they're doing in the ambiance. This drum machine might use the kick from it. We'll see. Pulse. We're gonna keep that because we'll filter it quite a bit, but that's a really good little like tension sound. That's way too intense. We're not gonna need that. That's a little smoother. We could potentially filter that and use that. This is, what is this guy even? Oh yeah, that's the crazy clang. That actually could potentially be kind of interesting here. We do different effects with it. That's also a good tensiony kind of a sound. So we're going to keep those. What about this? That's probably a bit much. We probably don't need that. And then we have a few of these sounds that were muted in the combat version. That's a bit much. Probably don't need that. And then what are you? Also probably don't need that. Those are good like intensity sounds for the combat version. So we're going to do this and we're going to do this. That's a better way of muting them, but keeping them in case we want them. And then everything else, I do think we will have, we'll probably keep this to a certain extent. But so just like muting stuff, it's mostly just going to be percussion at the moment. Like that's already much more in the direction. Obviously the percussion's way too intense. We're going to do a lot there. But that's a reasonably good like level of intensity to start out with. And it helps us keep a little bit of the same structure. So that we, things are kind of changing and transitioning at the same points, which is also really important because these tracks are going to be dynamically moving in and out of each other. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get all of the groove stuff into like an EQ place where we're really happy with it. And we're going to do that by using my first tool that I want to play around with is auto filter. And we're going to set it to bandpass. Sine wave, we're going to slow it way down and get this to be real dark. Okay, that's a decent start. We're going to automate the bypass here because we only want this present in this ending sort of section of the tune, right? So, Groove, if you can give me an automation lane here. So this is going to be our sneak variation. So this will bring an auto filter just on this very, very specific area. And then we are also going to add, wow, because I want it even much, much, much tinier than this. So I want to use wires. Wires is a very cool. Turn it down a little bit. That's a pretty nice feeling level of intensity there to me. And then like we'll have, you know, kicks that happen much more sporadically, and maybe even automate this to kind of like come in and out volume wise. Could be kind of nice here, but we'll get to that. So we want to automate this as well. Again, to only be active sort of during this section of the tune. We probably don't need that many like big crashes. So we're going to get rid of like, we're going to thin those out a little bit. Probably don't need these little like lion. This is like, it's like a reversed lion roar. And then we can turn all of these down a fair bit. And then of course we'll absolutely have like, we'll have, you know, some more pad stuff in here. That ARP might come in handy. I want to leave in the little scream, but I want it to be less intense. Yeah, a little bit more there. And we're going to have these crashes be even more pitched down, I think. We're really trying to pull punches here. Yeah, because we have two. Ooh, maybe we just use the low layer instead of both layers. Yeah, now we're talking. So now let's think about some other things here. Let's grab our main bass sound. That one's the really heavy reverb one. Yeah, I think we do use the reverbier one, and just do something. I don't like that. Where that filter, that real rip and filter, only really opens up like this here at kind of at the ends of phrases. So what is that? It's a 2-bar phrase. So this is going to be easier to key in by hand. But like have it start down there. And then have it really rip like that. And then if we join these, we can stick a point in the middle. Yeah, like so. Not quite. Want that nice and tight. There you go. And then have it stay low, right? Like so. And then we'll repeat that out. Okay, another thing I want to see how Ooh, that's kind of cool. Gives it a little bit more rhythm. Cool. Okay, so we're going to join all of those. And then I do want to add, we're just going to... Just that low sub in there. It's a very subtle layer, but that's okay. Have that going. So we'll have it start just like this. And then we want to find... Not that. Okay, so what we need to do here, because this is still going to our groove bus, so we're going to set up a send here. And yeah, we want just like a really subtle little layer of some of these war drums here. So like that's good. That's good. Except I have a ton of latency, so that sounds crazy. So we're going to turn all of this off so that we have better latency. Hi, Roller Coaster. How's it going, buddy? Let's try that again. Just like that. Let's see here. Undo quantize. I want to quantize these a little bit differently. 2 and yeah, it's going to be 8 notes is better here. Cool. Okay. I like that. It's just like really, really subtle, right? Super, super subtle. You even probably use a little bit more of those. But what we can do is we're just going to automate the send on this. What? And just have it out for the rest of all the other versions so that we can get a nice clean feed. I'm not sure about these middle hits might be. Yeah. So like right in here, I want to see if we can get this ARP doing something that's decent. What? Oh, that's why. I'm like, why in the hell is that the wrong note? That's why that's the wrong note. Okay, that makes sense. This ARP as it stands right now is a little bit much, I don't think. Well, I want to do something significantly different with it. So let me just play around here for a second. Because it's, yeah, as it stands, it is not right, but I want to do something effecty with it. Because I like to try to, once we're at this point, I really like to try to use the same, as many of the same elements as I can and do more with effects as opposed to just like bringing in whole new instruments. We certainly can. There's nothing like wrong with that, but it's, you know, it's thinking more vertically and less writing totally separate stuff. So if I can't get it to where we like it, then yeah, we, you know, like a pad could definitely have a place here. We also do still have some strings that we could do something with. Yeah, but like I would try adding, who could we add here? Cassette could do some interesting things. Ring mod could be real. Let's play with the ring mod for a second. Yeah, like that's super interesting. How's it going, Windows 98? We are not doing feedback on tracks at the moment, but I would welcome you to swing back by anytime if you are looking for... my feedback streams are not... they're not really just like, oh, we just like listen to tracks for fun. That's more like I'm a professional mix engineer and producer, so I try to give people really detailed like mixing and production feedback. So if that's something you're interested in, I welcome you back to... Welcome to come back by tomorrow or Friday at the beginning of stream, and I would be happy to check it out. But yeah, we are not doing any more feedback today, unfortunately. This is for Order 1, Rio. Yeah, and honestly, like just that. I like that. It's got a kind of a, not an alarmy vibe to it, but... Ooh. There we go. Tune the ring mod to just off of a G. Oh yeah. We may even pull that to half as often. It sounds tuned because it is detuned. This is a ring modulator. So a ring modulator uses a sine wave to introduce frequency modulation into this. It's not detuned exactly, but it's introducing frequency modulation into the signal. So you can tune that frequency to a bunch of different, to whatever you want. So what we can do is look on a chart and find a nice frequency. Frequency of the note G. Uh, 783. So 784. So 784, that would be 14, 15, 60, 1568. Can we... Oh, ha, ha, ha. Look at you. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that. That's great. This, by the way, guys, this is free. This is from the Melda Productions free suite. What a slick feature that you can just like punch in exact notes. What about just a C? No, that doesn't have nearly enough texture to it. Let's go with a G. I like the G. I can try 1377 again, because there was one in there that I had it was quite nice. That does sound good. It's more atonal. I do like 1377. So we're just going to do the same thing here. Bypass that. But not for this section of the tune. And then I want to add, not a really intense, but I want to add an auto filter to this as well, just so it evolves a little bit more. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. I think that's a pretty dang good sneak layer, personally. I don't think it needs a ton more than that. So, like, we have ambiance. And then that steps up to sneak. I like that the low end drops out a little bit because it does help it feel like you're focused in a little bit more. Like, this feels pretty expansive. I may even take that low sub layer out. It's not really like accomplishing anything in that ambiance other than mud. I like that a lot. I think that's in a great spot. Okay. We've got that, and then we've got combat. Which definitely, like, again, we're constantly thinking, like, how do these all feel together, right? So we're sneaking. We don't want to get caught. Oh shit, we got caught. Oops. Oh no, they saw my foot. I think that works well. So now, let's think about escape here. So escape is going to be a click down from combat, but mostly like the approach with escape usually is that you kind of pull the ass out of the track. So like you pull all the kick drums out and like the low bass so that it feels like, it's very like debased, ungrounded, is usually a good bet. But let's take a look at our reference track here. There is no reference for escape. Okay. Well, that is all right. I know more or less what I think needs to happen here. So yeah, I mean, we're going to start with is just getting rid of all of our kick drums. So we're going to pull up our this little kit here, that kick layer, and then our war drum layer, and kind of get rid of some of that stuff. But our war drums, we're not going to get rid of entirely. We're going to pull them up at first. I just want, where's that? Yeah, right there. I just want this like this. And then wait, who is that clangorous man? Oh yeah, we don't want that in the combat version. Jesus Christ. Bit crusher on metal. That's a lot. We don't necessarily want that like bass line, right? That wah, wah, wah. That's for combat. We might have an element like that in there. And then we might honestly just have like a few random hits down here. Like this. I mean, 8 notes. Yeah. But not quite that. We want those. But more than that. There we go. That. And we'll keep that going, but we'll get a more consistent natural pattern. Oh, no, not that. I want to edit this one. Excuse me. Thank you very much. What the hell's going on? Get out of here. There we go. That should be pretty good. We'll just make you 2 bars. That's fine. Good. What the hell is going on? Oh. Strings. That's why it's freaking out. Not quite. Oh, did something get bumped here? Are we in the wrong, I think we're in the wrong articulation. Come here, War Drums. Come back. There we go. Oh, yeah, that's an ending thing. No, we want to be on D1. There we go. Thought it sounded a little odd. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is feeling pretty escapey to me. But I think if we want to try to keep this base layer in here, we can have it holding a higher note. You'll see what we're going to do here. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring in this another spot of X trim here, because this one should. I forgot to do that. Okay, good. We want to edit automation here, and we want you to be not bypassed here. That's what we want. But for this, we're going to grab a second instance of that Xtrum to, again, kind of use it as a shaper. This is the escape version. And then we're going to have that one here. This is like a really common technique that at least I've figured out on how to like manage these different sections, is you just like automate. If you're like, oh, I want this section to have the same instrument, but I want it to sound a little different, just automate the effect to only be active in that one section. So like we'll have a second Xtrum here. But we're going to have this be a real chunky, real heavy 16th note kind of a thing, and we'll stick it before the reverb. And then just grab the automation here so that this one is only active during this escape section. And then we can play a little bit with the filter here. Where's our little filter buddy? Should be this guy. Just want to like bend down pitch a little bit. That feels very tense, very escapey, very sort of like debased. Hey, Blue, how's it going, buddy? How we doing? How we doing? The only other thing I could see adding here is really high string spiccato. Yeah, 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 yeah. B3, quick question. And hey, never apologize for asking a question. They don't even have to be quick. They can be super long, complicated questions. I love questions. Do you use Fmod or Wwise? Do you implement audio into the games or just give final mixes or masters to the client? Great question. So I do not know Fmod or Wwise very well yet. I'm certainly familiar with them. I have not used them particularly on projects. I understand how they work in theory, and I have mucked about, particularly in Unreal. I built like a little first-person target shootery thing in Unreal, just so that I would have a better understanding of the dev process. I'm not very good at it. I don't think well with code-oriented things, but I do know certainly how they work. I think at some point I would like to get more to grips with those, but generally I'm either delivering like just finished OGG loops or potentially delivering layers and then just like talking a lot with the guys who are going to be implementing it. and finding good solutions to how we want to layer things, what kind of deliverables they need, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not the one actually doing it, but it's a huge part of the conversation. Because of course it affects how I structure all my compositions and how I layer things and how vertically are we composing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but they're very cool tools and you can get very, very creative with them. Okay, so I'm very happy with where all three of these are at. I think all we really need here. Now, let me hear this what these violas are doing. In that section, whether or not we want to keep those. We're going to turn our mastering stuff back on here momentarily. And I just want to hear the 3 or the 4 versions that we have again. And then the last thing that we're going to do is just think about if we want, like, what the strings are doing. Strings are, I always kind of leave strings for the end because they're such a particular texture and they also kind of, they take the longest to get sounding good because you got to do all the articulations and stuff. But I like to use them to fill gaps, especially in a score like this. I like to use them to kind of fill gaps where other things, you know, where I feel like there's holes because they're good at being really high and shrill, or they're good at like filling out just different parts of the frequency spectrum that other things might not necessarily be in. So let's see here. Now my question is, why is this so wobbly? I guess it's not any wobblier than it used to be. Well, thank you, P3. I'm glad you dig it. Yeah, it's really fun stuff. It's very, very fun stuff. So, okay. Let's go back to our ambiance here. Let me relabel these real quick. This is combat. And you are... Oh, God. What did I do? You are explore. So that's our ambiance. I personally like where it's at. Slavka, you had said something about like something more with the strings at the end. I don't. This one's a bit interesting to me because I like the reference that you guys sent with the Dead Space track is like much more distorted than I would probably ever go for an ambiance track. I don't know what context. I don't know the context of that track in Dead Space, but the tricky thing with distortion is that it's a cool sound musically, but it can get really grating on a player's ear. So if somebody's going to be, you know, walking around for 15 straight minutes, I feel like having a lot of clipping and distortion on a piece, on like background or environmental, would just get really would get very grating on the ear afterward because it's just like a constant kind of like crackle, you know, and a pretty aggressive sound. So I have it relatively crunchy at the moment, probably crunchier than I would ever have an ambiance piece for that reason. Because that's one of those things where even if somebody isn't like really aware of why they don't like it, I think it increases the likelihood that they just go, this track's kind of, you know, this sound in the background is kind of annoying. I'm just going to turn the sound off or turn the music off. It can also interfere a little bit with environmental audio because it's so high frequency. So like if here's what I would say. I like where the strings are at, like density wise, which is just a couple of those swells and like a little melody in the middle. I would bring the distortion back kind of across the board on this. But I have it there because you guys sent that, this, let me pull up the reference. And it is, again, like it's quite distorted, for what I would typically think of as a good ambiance piece. Is it this one? No, this one's very clean. It is this one. Like there's a fair amount of distortion on that. So that's kind of why I have it. I would probably pull it back to like that's pulling the clipping back on the significantly back on the black hole sound. So, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Distortion doesn't really feel dreadful. Distortion typically translates as intense, aggressive, angry. Those are usually the kinds of like emotional responses that come from things that are really heavily distorted. Dread is usually more of like a dissonance thing. So having weird, very atonal chords. Distortion is usually like ripping, tearing, brutality, anger, in your face, which like again is like, and then when it's just a constant thing, my concern is it's not, I don't think that that'll translate as dread. I think it'll translate just kind of as noise and risks interfering with other environmental sound stuff and risks just kind of getting tiring on the player's ear because it's just going to be like a constant, you know, kind of a, which is like that. That's why I was surprised by that Dead Space reference. I'm like, I would probably, if I were playing that section and especially if I were in VR or had headphones on, I would probably mute the music for that. Just for me personally. So yeah. And so pulling it back on the black hole and then leaving it where it is at the base, on the base. Yeah, so there it peaks out for a second. And then it goes away. That feels like a good level to me. And then it really peaks out just that once. And then goes back away. Before it was kind of constant. So I like that where it's peaking or spiking, as you say, Slavko, but isn't like just constant throughout the whole thing, which it was a bit before. So I like that. String-wise, that's where we can get a little bit more into the dread arena of things. Which are those? Oh yeah, those are literally just two very long held notes on that the basses are doing. So here I would do two short of notes. They are 16 bars long. Those notes are almost 30 seconds. I can change they swell really, really slowly. So I can make them swell less dramatically. Yeah, that might be better. Yeah, they're like real subtle in there. There you go. Now you can hear them a lot earlier and they build slower. And they just peak out right there at the end for just a second. And then the other thing I was going to say is like dread. Other sounds should quieten. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I know what you mean. Another great way that we can play with dread is to like have elements that aren't super audible. So like these basses, right, are kind of going the entire time. Just adding to the texture. So what I want to try is have them play some really weird out notes. Because like dread is a thing of like something's not quite right, right? At least that to me, like that's always the yeah, for the escape track. We'll get there. We'll get there. That's my idea on the escape track. That's a little too subtle, I think. Although we could bring these up. Like that. So those end right there. I like that idea, Slavka. Of having everything else kind of like take a big breath right off the ends of these spikes. Like till 114 here. So what we can do is we can literally just like break up. Because they peak at the same time that the synth, that low bass synth peaks. So here's, yeah, this will be like essentially the base, like fully cutting out. Kim fan, how's it going? That's nice, man. Yeah, good call. Good call. And then we'll have it kind of swell back in right there. They can kind of do it again there at the very end. And then we'll have it sidle back in from super dark. Oh yeah, and then we'll have the same, we'll do the same shape on this swell. So it should be the same length. Oh, come here. And then we can do a little bit more here. We can have like this middle voice move oddly. Maybe something like this. Little unsettling. Yeah, that gives a little bit more to it. Thick. I like that a lot. I think that's really, really nice. It feels better. It's more structured now. Cool. I'm very happy with that. So then we have Sneak. What's up, Unravels? What's up, young cholesterol? Cool. I'm really, really pleased with that. That feels right on point for sneaking around. Good tension. Still a little spooky, but feels very like methodical. So then we have Escape. And so this is where I'm thinking something like probably violins and violas, but we just go, we go up here. And we get over on YouTube side, Skull. How's it going, Skull? Let's just get some quarter notes in here for now, because that's probably about the pace. And we want spiccato or staccatissimo. And like pretty much just that, I think. Why? That's C. That's C. Why does it sound so flat? Yeah, honestly, like literally just that. I don't think I like that kit in there. And then maybe just for this one note here. We do this, Mercado, and then back to Staccatissimo. that's stupid. Distortion on the strings is going to make them not sound as much like strings. And they already have not distortion per se, but really, really heavy compression. Like distortion here. And that's not even really. That's really just driving them. Let's throw a clipper on it. Because that's kind of the vibe of the distortion that we've been... no. Just type the word distortion. That's not super useful. Let's see what it does here. I mean, gently. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that works. That works okay. It's not like really just. I mean, it's clipping, but it's not coming across as distortion, which is kind of interesting, actually. It's certainly going to make them shrill and piercing. So let's drop that down at that transition point. We'll drop that same pattern down into the cellos, into the celli. Transpose down 2 octaves, yes, and then staccatissimo, please. Yeah, it's just a nice little repeating texture in there. And the other thing that about these escape tracks, I was watching some playthroughs. We're just refreshing my memory on Metal Gear, and the escape tracks are usually they're the least often heard, and they're usually heard for the shortest amount of time of all of these tracks. Cool. Okay. I think that's good there. Like I said, I really don't think we need string stuff on Sneak. Well, so far, I think, Jake, I don't think there's really much else that we need here on any of this. I have some more options in terms of like intensity layer stuff that we could potentially reach for, like namely these really like these are kind of good sounds if you're thinking of like, oh, we want it to sound even more insane. if we need to amp it up even more with the mechanic that we don't talk about, we've got those, which could potentially be cool. So yeah, we've got a little bit of latitude there, but I think from where I'm sitting, I think these are all in really, really good shape. I think these are a good live with it for a while, and then maybe do tiny refinements as needed. But yeah, I really like the sneak I like the Explorer a lot, but I like the sneak a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Just want to make one little tweak. I just want to like darken these wardrobes just a little bit. The little tambourine hit was just a little overly bright. Okay, great. I think that's good. I think I can bounce these down and send them over y'all's way, and we should be in good shape. But on that note, that is what we have in terms of work for today. So super fun. I love it. I'm very pleased with all of these. So I'll get them rendered out and get the sheet updated. And then in the next week or so here, we will get into the next sector of the game, which is going to be Spacewalk. That will be extremely fun. So Slavka, Jake, start thinking about references for that. But yeah, I think we are, that is going to put us in good shape for today. So we will be back tomorrow. As I keep saying, we have just a boatload of work. I know we have at least, I think, 2 placeholder music for the menus. Okay, very cool. Well, we can potentially think about that next then. Okay, let's chat. Very cool. In that case, we should chat, and we should find we should find a list of what all exactly is needed for that demo, and figure that out. So yeah, we'll chat. Anyways, we have a bunch of stuff to do tomorrow and Friday as well. So there's no shortage of music to make around here. So, but I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. So thank you guys very much for hanging out. I do very much appreciate it. And we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, 8 p.m. Central European time. And we'll have more stuff. We'll do some more feedback. It's going to be just swell. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.